Hello everyone, welcome back to Titans of History. Today we are going to be comparing and contrasting the Soviet Union and the U.S. and determining which country you would have rather lived in the 1930s. So, the only reason this is even a question is because in the 1930s, the U.S. had the Great Depression going on. They had a huge economic crash, lots of economic issues. Yeah, and you got things like the Dust Bowl destroying their agriculture, everyone was hungry, couldn't find work, and just general economic shortages. So the obvious question is, did the Soviet Union have a depression of their own? Did they experience the same things as the US? Well, not exactly. From what I could tell by research, they didn't have anywhere near the sort of economic depression the US had, if any. In fact, they had immigrants coming from Germany and Finland to the Soviet Union during the Depression because the conditions were so much better there. So it's likely due to some difference in the way their economies, in the way the Soviet Union economy was structured versus how the Western economies were structured. So, does that mean the Soviet Union already won? Is communism the best? Well, not exactly. There is some more objective data we could look at to determine the quality of life. So I'm going to share that data with you, and you can make your own decision, but I think the answer is still pretty obvious. So, for life expectancy in the 1930s, the U.S. life expectancy in the 1930s was 63 years, if you were born in the 1930s. And for the Soviet Union, it was almost half that, 32 and a half years. So, easy win for the U.S. And next we're going to look at GDP per capita, which is just a way of comparing or combining the GDP of the country, basically the size of their economy, with the amount of people in the country to try and determine wealth, how much wealth a person would have in a country. This is in $1990. So Soviet Union GDP per capita was $2,150. In the US, it was $6,134. So that is an easy win for the US, yet again, with almost 3 times as much GDP per capita. And finally, we're going to look at education. Whose education was better? Which country would you rather have your kids go to school in? So in the Soviet Union, literacy rates in the 1930s were a lot better than they had been in the last 30 years. In fact, they had improved massively, but they were still nowhere near the literacy rates in the US. And as you can see, even 7 years before the Soviet Union had a 75% literacy rates, the US had 6% or 96% literacy rates in their country, which was amazing. Keep in mind that was kind of at the beginning of the Depression, so that might have dipped a little bit, but it's still probably higher than the Soviet Union during the Great Depression. And then as for expected years in school for a child, in the Soviet Union, max like 10 years for a kid. In the US, 8 years minimum for all kids, so basically the same, I'd say. And so I'd say the US in this category of education comes out slightly on top. So, overall, I think the US still wins based on the data, even though they had an economic crash and the Great Depression and the Soviet Union didn't. This just goes to show you how much worse communism is for the quality of life. Even when there's not an economic crash, or even when capitalism has an economic crash, communism is still, or countries run by communism are still the worst place to live. But, I don't know, what do you think? Would you rather have lived in the 1930s America? Or would you rather have lived in the Soviet Union? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. But yeah, that's all I've got. Please like and subscribe for more content, and comment down below for what kind of future videos you would want to see me make.